What the Artemis II crew saw during the 6 minutes Earth went silent. For 6 long minutes, the world could not hear them. No voices, no signals, no confirmation that everything was okay. High above Earth, a small spacecraft named Orion was racing through the atmosphere at extraordinary speed. Inside were 4 astronauts returning from humanity's first crew journey around the moon in more than half a century. Mission control waited. Families watched. Millions held their breath. And yet, this silence was not a mistake. It was not a failure. It was part of the plan. The story of those 6 minutes is not about danger. It is about preparation, engineering, and the quiet confidence that comes from years of training. It is a story of how humans learn to leave Earth and safely find their way home again. Hashtag a journey half a century in the making. To understand those tense moments, we have to go back to the beginning of the mission. On April 1st, 2026, before sunrise touched the Florida coast, a powerful rocket stood on the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center. The vehicle was the Space Launch System, the most powerful rocket NASA had built since the Apollo era. Inside the spacecraft were 4 astronauts. Asterisk Commander Reed Wiseman. Asterisk Pilot Victor Glover. Asterisk Mission Specialist Christina Koch. Asterisk Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen. Together, they represented experience, international partnership, and a new generation of explorers. Their mission was called Artemis II. It was not a landing mission. It was not about planting flags. Instead, it was a test, a crucial step to prove that modern spacecraft systems could safely carry humans far beyond Earth orbit and bring them back again. The last time astronauts traveled around the moon was in 1972, during Apollo 17. For more than 50 years, no human had ventured that far. Now, the journey was beginning again. Hashtag traveling farther than ever before. Soon after launch, the rocket thundered into the sky, pushing the Orion spacecraft toward space. Hours later, the crew was floating in weightlessness, watching Earth shrink beneath them. Day by day, they traveled farther. Eventually, they reached a distance of about 760 miles from Earth, farther than any human crew had ever flown. From their windows, the astronauts could see the moon in stunning detail. They photographed its surface, tested navigation systems, and practiced procedures that future lunar crews would rely on. But everyone knew that the real test would come later. Because in spaceflight, the journey home is often the most demanding part. Hashtag training for the unknown. Long before launch day, the astronauts had spent years preparing for this mission. Unlike astronauts aboard the International Space Station, they would not have a nearby safe haven. If something went wrong, they could not quickly return to Earth. So NASA trained them for every possible scenario. They studied spacecraft systems until they knew them by memory. They practiced emergency procedures repeatedly. They flew high-performance jets to simulate the physical stresses of spaceflight. Every switch, every display, every alarm, nothing was left to chance. NASA had a simple philosophy. Preparation reduces risk. And nowhere would that preparation matter more than during reentry. Hashtag the moment before the descent. After completing their journey around the moon, the crew turned their spacecraft toward Earth. As Orion approached the planet, engineers followed a carefully timed sequence of events. First, the spacecraft released its service module, the section that had provided power and propulsion during the mission. Then, a small but critical engine burn adjusted Orion's position so that its heat shield faced forward. This alignment was essential, because soon, the spacecraft would encounter the atmosphere at a speed nearly 35 times faster than sound. At that velocity, even air becomes a powerful force. And then, the descent began. Hashtag entering the fire. As Orion reached the upper layers of Earth's atmosphere, friction with the air generated intense heat. Temperatures outside the spacecraft soared to thousands of degrees. The heat shield, built from special materials designed to absorb and release energy, began to glow. Bright orange, then white-hot. This was exactly what engineers expected. During an earlier uncrewed mission, scientists discovered that small pieces of the heat shield had chipped away during re-entry. They carefully studied the problem and strengthened the design before sending astronauts on board. Now, the upgraded shield was being tested under real conditions, and it performed precisely as planned. Hashtag the 6-minute silence. Then came the moment everyone had prepared for. As Orion plunged deeper into the atmosphere, the air around the spacecraft became superheated. The intense heat stripped electrons from gas molecules, forming a layer of plasma, a glowing shell surrounding the capsule. That plasma blocked radio waves. Suddenly, communication stopped. Mission Control could no longer hear the astronauts. Telemetry signals disappeared. The spacecraft seemed to vanish. This communication blackout lasted about 6 minutes. To observers on the ground, it felt like an eternity. But inside the spacecraft, the crew remained calm. They monitored their instruments. They checked pressure readings. They watched temperature indicators. They also felt the force of gravity increasing, pressing them firmly into their seats. Every reading stayed within safe limits. Everything was working, exactly as designed. What the astronauts saw. While the world waited in silence, the astronauts witnessed something extraordinary. Through the spacecraft window, Earth slowly grew larger. Commander Reed Wiseman later described the view with simple words. There's a great blue hue to it. It's beautiful. Below them stretched the curved horizon of the planet, deep blue oceans, white clouds, and the thin line of atmosphere protecting life on Earth. At the same time, glowing plasma streamed past the spacecraft, creating a brilliant band of light outside the window. It was intense. It was dramatic, but it was also controlled. The spacecraft's computers guided the descent automatically, while the crew remained ready to respond if necessary. Years of training had prepared them for this exact moment. ## contact restored. Finally, the spacecraft slowed enough for the plasma layer to fade. Radio signals returned. Mission Control heard the crew's voices again. Relief spread instantly through the control room. Moments later, small parachutes deployed to stabilize the spacecraft. Then 3 large orange parachutes opened, gently slowing Orion's descent. At approximately 8:07 p.m., the capsule splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California. Recovery teams quickly reached the spacecraft. All 4 astronauts emerged healthy and unharmed. The mission was complete. A mission that reached beyond space. The successful return of Artemis II was more than a technical achievement. It was proof that modern spacecraft systems could safely carry humans into deep space and back again. Engineers confirmed that the upgraded Orion spacecraft performed exactly as expected. The mission demonstrated that NASA was ready for the next phase of exploration, sending astronauts to land on the moon once more. But the impact went even further. Millions of people around the world followed the mission. Students watched launches in classrooms. Families gathered around televisions and mobile screens. Teachers used the journey to explain science, physics, and engineering. For many young viewers, Artemis II became a source of inspiration. NASA calls them the Artemis generation, the explorers of tomorrow. ## a global effort. Another important lesson from Artemis II was the power of international cooperation. One of the astronauts came from Canada. Engineers, scientists, and support teams from many nations contributed to the mission. Together, they followed shared principles for peaceful exploration of space. The message was clear. Space is not just a destination for one country. It is a frontier for all humanity. The real meaning of those 6 minutes. Looking back, the 6-minute blackout was not a moment of danger. It was a demonstration of preparation. Every system had been tested. Every procedure had been practiced. Every risk had been studied. What appeared to be silence was actually confidence. Confidence in engineering. Confidence in teamwork. Confidence in human knowledge. ## a step toward the future. Space exploration has always been a process of learning, step by step, mission by mission. Decades ago, astronauts in the Apollo program faced unexpected challenges and discovered new solutions. Those lessons shaped the spacecraft of today. Now, Artemis II has added another chapter to that story. Its successful return proved that humans can once again travel far from Earth and come back safely. It showed that careful planning and cooperation can turn uncertainty into achievement. And perhaps most importantly, it reminded us that exploration is not just about reaching new places. It is about returning home with knowledge, experience, and the courage to go even farther next time. Because sometimes, the quietest moments in space are the ones that move humanity forward the most.